actual video, we will be talking about the impact of Filipino traits on the PNP ethics. Okay? The discussion of the positive and negative traits of the Filipino makes it clear that there is much that is good in among Filipinos. And we all know that. But there is much that needs to be changed. It is also clear that many of the Filipinos' strong points are also sources of weakness. No? As people, as people, they are person-oriented. The relationship with others are very, very important part of their lives. They are thus capable of much caring and concerns for others. Yan yung Pilipino. On the other hand, the orientation in the extreme leads to lack of objectivity and the discharge or the disregard for universal rules and procedures where everyone, regardless of the relationship with them, is treated equally. Their orientation leads them to be concerned for people and yet unfair to some. Napakakilalang trait yan ng isang Pilipino. So, ethics, kaya may ethics. Ethics is a key component of competitiveness in the work environment. How to ensure that work in an atmosphere characterized by mutual trust and confidence, no, worth the respect of everyone in society. There's no doubt on this fact that the greater the measure of mutual trust and confidence in the ethics of a society, the greater its strength and support to everyone. Kaya nga lang, ethics must be considered in a broader sense by the citizens and constituents in a larger society. So long as the community trusts the organization, the PNP organization, the higher the support that the PNP organization can get from everyone or from the community. Okay? Filipinos actually are naturally helpful and generous people. We Filipinos give as much as we can and extend help to family members and even strangers when needed. This is seen through the abundance of charity drives and foundation in the country, especially when calamities arise. Yung sinasabi ko kanina, there's much that still we can see that are good among Filipinos, but there is as much that needs to be changed as well. Okay? Here are the positive traits of the Filipino. Nakikipagkapwa-tao, family orientation, joy and humor, hard work and industry, faith and religiosity, diba? Ability to survive, flexibility, adaptability, and creativity. Pagkikipagkapwa-tao, Filipinos are open to others and feel one with others. They regard others with dignity and respect and deal with them as fellow human beings. Diba? Ang pagkikipagkapwa-tao is manifested in a basic sense of justice and fairness and concern for others. Yun, it is demonstrated in the Filipinos' ability to emphasize or empathize with others, in helpfulness and generosity in times of need, in the practice of bayanihan or mutual assistance, and the famous Filipino hospitality. Pagkikipagkapwa-tao is a result from being in a camaraderie and a feeling of closeness to one another. It is also the foundation for unity as well as the sense of social justice. Family orientation, Filipinos are family-oriented. It's given. Filipino possesses a genuine and deep love for family, which includes not simply spouse and children, parents and siblings, but also grandparents. That's us, aunts, uncles, cousins, godparents, and other ceremonial relatives. To the Filipino, one's family is the source of personal identity, the source of emotional and material support, and one's main commitment and responsibility. Concern for the family is manifested in the honor and respect given to parents and elders, in the care given to children, the generosity towards kin in need, and in the great sacrifices. These are actually itong mga actions ng isang Pilipino is because we are really born family-oriented. Joy and humor. Filipinos have a very cheerful and fun-loving approach to life and its ups and downs. Diyan tayo magaling. Okay, there are even, actually in today's generation, it's very easy for us to make memes. Even in the midst of calamity, crisis, patok na patok pa rin dyan ang memes ng mga Pinoy. Tinatawag natin joy and humor. One of the positive traits of the Filipino, in our lowest, we still find reason to smile. Okay? The sense of joy and humor is manifested in the Filipinos' love for social celebrations. Okay? Hard work and industry. Filipinos have the capacity for hard work given proper conditions, the desire to raise one's standard of living, and to possess the essentials of a decent life for one's family. Filipinos do work hard, lalong-lalo na kapag ang isang Pinoy ay merong ambisyon to give his or her family, a better future, a better life. We work hard. Faith and religiosity. Filipinos have a deep faith in God. It's given. Their innate religiosity enables them to comprehend and genuinely accept reality in the context of God's will and plan. Okay? Thus, tragedy and bad fortune are accepted, and some optimism characterizes even the poorest lives. The faith of the Filipino is related to somehow bahala na system, correct? Which instead of being viewed as defeatist resignation, may be considered positively as a reservoir of psychic energy, an important psychological prop on which they can lean during hard times. Ability to survive. Yan. Filipinos can survive, which is manifested in their capacity for endurance despite difficult times and in their ability to get by on so very little. Filipinos make do with what is available in the environment. Diba? For example, making out, living from a garbage dump. Remember, Yorme was once a mambabasura. No? The ability to survive. The survival instinct is related to the Filipinos' other strength, which is a basic optimism, flexibility, yan, flexible tayo eh, and adaptability, hard work, and deep faith in God. Flexibility, adaptability, and creativity. Filipinos have a great capacity to adjust and to adapt to circumstances and the surrounding environment, both physical and social. And planned and anticipated events are never overly disturbing or disorienting as the flexible Filipino adjusts to whatever happens. Kasi nga flexible tayo. Okay? We possess a tolerance for ambiguity that enables us to determine and faced by uncertainty or lack of information. They are creative, resourceful, quick learners, and can improvise and make use of whatever to create and produce. This quality, itong flexibility, adaptability, and creativity, is manifested in the ability to adapt to life of the world, in the ability to make new things out of old scraps, in the keep of old machines running, yan. Kaya pa to, pwede pa to, di ba? In the creative talent manifest cultural sphere, it is likely seen in the ability to accept change, which is the result is productivity, innovation, entrepreneurship, equanimity, and survival. In this slide naman are the negative traits of the Filipino, which I'm talking about kanina, that has to be changed. No? Extreme personalism. Okay? Extreme personalism is manifested in the tendency to give personal interpretation to action. For example, take things personally. Yan. Thus, sincere question may be viewed as a challenge to one's competence, or positive feedback may be interpreted as a sign of special affection. We somehow take things personally even if it's not meant to be. That's Filipino, and that should be changed. That's actually a negative trait of the Filipino. Sometimes there are merong mga constructive advice, constructive statement that you take it as personal. Like, most especially sa mga taong ayaw makorek. Yan. Extreme family-centeredness. While concern for the family is one of the Filipinos' greatest strength, nabubuhay tayo dahil gusto natin matulungan na nating pamilya. Yan ang Pinoy. While concern for the family is one of the Filipinos' greatest strengths, in the extreme it becomes a serious flaw. Flaw na siya. Excessive concern for the family creates an in-group to which the Filipino is fiercely loyal to the detriment of concern of the larger community or the common good. Excessive concern for the family manifests itself in the use of one's office and power as a means of promoting the interest of the family. Isa din yung negative trait of the Filipino. Okay? Na nangyari at nangyayari. Alright? Those who has really capability and is qualified should be the one who is going to enter and be accepted, for example, in a company or an institution or organization. Not because of being related to the one who is in the highest position. Diba? Now, because of this, it results in a lack of concern for the common good and acts as a block to rational consciousness. Next, lack of discipline. Discipline ito. Very true. Na mahirap baguhin, pero kaya. Pwede, kaya, and pwede. Alright? The Filipinos' lack of discipline encompasses several related characteristics. They have a casual and relaxed attitude towards time and spaces, which manifests itself in lack of precision and compulsiveness, in poor time management and procrastination. Yan tayo eh. Procrastination. That's actually the habit of delaying an important task, usually by focusing on less urgent, more enjoyable, and easier activities instead. Hindi tayo first things first. Okay, it's different from laziness. Procrastination is different from laziness, okay, which is the unwillingness to act. Ang laziness, that's the unwillingness to act, hindi mo talaga gagawin. Procrastination can only restrict your potential and undermine your career. Kasi inuna mo hindi dapat unahin. Passivity and lack of initiative. Filipinos are generally passive and lacking in initiative. One waits to be told what has to be done. Diba? There is a strong reliance on others, for example, leaders, government, to do things for us. No? This is related to one's attitude towards authority. Filipinos need a strong authority to figure and feel safer and more secure in the presence of such an authority. One is generally submissive to those in authority and is not likely to raise issues or to question decisions. Remember what had happened in SF 44, if you know what really had happened to that. Filipinos tend to be complacent, kampante, and they are rarely in a sense of urgency about any problem. There is a high tolerance of inefficiency, poor service, and even violations of one's basic rights. Diba? Next, kanya-kanya syndrome. Ito, Filipinos have a selfish, self-serving attitude that generates a feeling of envy and competitiveness towards others, particularly one's peers who seem to have gained some status or prestige. Towards them, the Filipino demonstrates the so-called crab mentality, yan, referring to the tendency of crabs in the basket to pull each other down, diba? Using the leveling instrument of chismis, kung ang crab ginagamit nilang panghugot sa kapwa nila crab is yung sungkit nila, no? As Filipinos, we are using chismis, intriga, and other unconstructive criticism to bring others down. There seems to be a basic assumption that others gain once lost, but there is not. Diba? Ang kanya-kanya syndrome kasi is also evident in the personal ambition and drive for power and status that is completely insensitive to the common good. Next, lack of self-analysis and self-reflection. Ito, there's a tendency in the Filipino to be superficial and even somewhat flighty. In the face of serious problems, both personal and social, there is a lack of analysis or reflection. Related to this, the Filipino emphasis on form, no, than a substance. There is a tendency to be satisfied with rhetoric and substitute this for reality. Empty rhetoric and endless words are very much part of public life, no? The Filipino lack of self-analysis and emphasis on form is reinforced by an educational system that is often more form than substantial or substance and legal system that tends to substitute law for reality. Next, the Filipino police officer. The PNP situation makes it more unique than the national situation because it has its own occupational culture, which exerts tremendous influence over its personnel's beliefs and values. Hence, a member of the PNP must contend with the two opposing influences, okay? His lineage as a Filipino and his duty as a police officer. Now we will be talking about here the 5 characteristics of a police officer's job, okay? Which seem particularly useful in explaining how police come to be different from civilians. Kaya nga right after from your training, after 6 months, tinatawag natin na training para sa pagtanggal ng isang civilian mentality, no? Sa isang police officer. Now, the uniform, the power, working hours, danger, and dirty work involved in police functions. In total, these factors work to separate the police from the public and to accentuate any differences. We have here yan, 5 characteristics of police officers: the uniform, the power, the working hours, the danger, and the dirty work. The uniform sets the officers apart, and it identifies his or her status as a police officer. It is not possible for the uniformed officer to be inconspicuous or to blend into the crowd. Wearing the uniform marks the officer as a member of a particular minority group, which is the police or the organization. That's one of the characteristics of police officers. It can be easily identified. Can identify if that person is particularly an officer that belongs to the organization, specifically sa PNP. Next, the power. The uniformed police officer with the sidearm, baton, citation book, and other trappings of office is a walking symbol of government power. Meaning, ikaw na may ganyan is only the person who has a capability and has an authority to use them. Sidearm, baton, and citation book yan. In most circumstances, both the officer and the citizen recognize that the officer is a dominant position and can do things to reward or punish the citizen. The fact of power means that the police officer is not an equal of the citizen on the street. It changes the nature of the relationship between the citizens and the police because, of course, ang police po has the capability and authority and the power, as what I keep on explaining on the first slide video that I posted here. They has this kind of immense power. Okay. Next is the working hours. In most places, police officers work rotating shifts. A typical pattern involves changing work hours every month, so that the officer work days for 1 month, afternoons for the next, nights for the third, and then days again. Police officers also work weekends, holidays, and frequently must put in overtime in emergencies and for court appearances. Hindi porke hindi mo duty, no? It's still a must that you will attend or you will give more time, most especially in emergencies and for court appearances. Okay. And police officers also do have duties on holidays, may it be Christmas or New Year's celebration. Next, danger. As one of the characteristics of police officers' job, danger, every day thousands of PNP personnel patrol the streets, no? In the Philippines, in the entire Philippines na yan, while carrying out this function. They deal with several issues, situations, and problems. They must also cope with a situation in which there is a little time to decide and make a judgment. Kaya nga tinitrain kayo dyan, no, about decision making and constant movement and attentiveness must always be observed in responding to a call for help that they may have life or death implication. The dirty work. One of the most important things police do for society is its dirty work. The police deal with dead bodies, crimes, crime victims, criminals, automobile accidents, and other aspects of society that most people would rather not think about. Diba? Isipin niyo yan. As dirty workers, police officers are untouchables because they do not wish to be reminded of what they do. The job of policing should not isolate the police from the citizens. This isolation might lead to the victim mentality. It has been an acknowledged practice in many parts of the world that the police and the community are working hand in hand in accomplishing the objective of a safe and secure society. And they both have duties actually, diba? And responsibilities to maintain peace and attain economic development for the country. By doing ang kanya-kanyang responsibilidad, you enforcing the laws, police officers, you helping police officers whenever you have information about a certain issue or cases. To accomplish this, mutual trust, understanding, and harmonious relations must be maintained. Here are the strengths of the Filipino police officers. Spiritual beliefs, yan, PNP members are traditional, religious, and God-loving persons. So, isa tong strength, no, ng isang police officer. Valor. Valor history attests that Filipino law enforcers have exemplified the tradition of valor in defending the country from aggression and oppression and protecting and preserving the life and property of the people. Pag sinabi natin valor, this is the strength of mind in regard to danger, that quality which enables a person to encounter danger with firmness, diba? Patriotism, yan. PNP members are traditionally patriotic by nature. Discipline. The discipline of the PNP members is manifested by instinctive obedience to lawful orders and thorough and spontaneous actions towards attainment of organizational objectives guided by moral, ethical, and legal norms. Courteous. Filipino police officers are courteous. Kaya sa paaralan pa lang, tinuturuan na kayo how to become courteous, and it can be easily seen even in our campus right now, no? Filipino police officers are upright in character, gentle in manners, dignified in appearance, and sincere in their concern to fellow men. Word of honor. PNP members' word is their bond. They stand by and commit to upholding it. Duty. The PNP members have historically exemplified themselves as dedicated public servants. Kitang-kita yan sa mga kapulisan. Knowing that their duties are, specifically here in Catbalogan, their duties are alternate duty nila eh. Whole day duty sila. They really spend their time outside the street, no? Just to make sure that they are securing private property or securing people. Loyalty. PNP members are traditionally loyal to the organization, country, and people as born by history and practice. Camaraderie. The binding spirit that it enhances teamwork. Ito yung importansya ng camaraderie. Cooperation in the police organization. Now let's talk about the weaknesses of the Filipino police officer. The weaknesses of the Filipino officer are rooted on how he individually adapts to the reality of his chosen profession. In like manner, the same police officer acknowledges that the public unfairly judges his competence based on actual results and not on whether he followed the correct process or not. Faced with this moral dilemma, a police officer sometimes adjusts his high ethical standards to meet the expectation of the public. This process eventually creates a phenomenon known as subculture, wherein a parallel set of values now exists side by side with the prescribed values and behavior by the organization. The following are the manifestation of this so-called subculture, which, to be fair, do not necessarily apply to all police officers but are generally regarded to be existing and accepted as valid. Weakness ng mga Pilipino yan, no? Lalong-lalo na sa mga issue kagaya ng what had happened to the cases concerning the decisions made by some police officers na ginajudge, no, ng community, most especially nowadays. Decisions made by the police officers, if it's not in accordance with what the people or the community thinks or judges, yon, weakness yan ng mga Pilipino police officer. Now here are the challenges facing the Filipino officer: political meddling, corruption. This is very true. Okay? Political meddling, it is observed that some elected officials often attempts to influence police operations to bolster their political positions in the community. Sometimes, police positions are awarded based on political patronage. Remember the ethical standards? Okay? No political patronage. Corruption. The police are not exempted from graft and corruption. As an institution, graft and corruption had long taken roots in the police agency. Corruption was nurtured by the long years of political patronage that slowly eroded the moral foundation of the organization. Sa matagal ng panahon, naandito na to. Graft and corruption in the police exist in different degrees. This corruption may be as negligible as siphoning petroleum from police vehicles for private consumption, yung mga simple to illegal logging or gun smuggling activities or illegal number games. Corruption exists in the form of overpricing of police uniforms and supplies, conversion deals, and lending money at usurious rates. Police themselves were affected by a lack of transparency in the administration of police benefits. Kahit sa kanila, hindi nila alam. Okay? There are some issues that I'm hearing actually. Ang tagal lumabas ng TV, ang tagal lumabas ng ganito, ganyan, blah, blah, blah. Alright? Many analysts believe that police officers may be involved in the operations of crime syndicates, either as principals or protectors. Thus, public perceptions of the police leave much to be desired. So these are the challenges of facing the Filipino police officers na kailangan mong iwasan. So here are the examples of the common types of corruption in the PNP. Case fixing, no? The subjective imposition of penalties or downright sabotage of the investigation process in exchange for money. Inaayos yung kaso. Bribery. Everybody knows what bribery is. Bribery is the receipt of cash or gift in exchange of past or future assistance in avoidance of prosecution. Extortion. Extortion is the common practice of holding street court, where incidents such as minor traffic tickets can be avoided with a cash payment to the officer and no receipt given. Protection. The taking of money or other rewards from vice operators or from legitimate companies operating illegally or in return for protecting them from law enforcement activity. Recycling. This is the use or sale of confiscated items and evidence, usually drugs or narcotics. Yan, that's the most common type of corruption. Binibenta yung mga nahuling mga ebidensya like drugs or any other kind or narcotics. Selective enforcement. Selective enforcement occurs when police officers exploit their officer discretion. For example, the PNP member who releases a suspect due to what is commonly known as arreglo or balato is in a clear abuse of his or her discretion and authority. On the reverse side, a police officer who arrests a person simply because the latter annoys him is likewise guilty of selective enforcement. And lastly, the internal payoffs. This is the sale of work assignments, day offs, holidays, vacation periods, and even promotions. Yan yung internal payoff. That's all for this lecture video.